Former Energy Australia Managing Director Ted Woodley, who joins me in the studio. Thanks for joining us, Ted.
Good evening, Chris.
So much money has been spent on Snowy 2.0 already, but you reckon it's best just to cut those losses and get out. Why?
Well, we've been saying for some time that it really needs to be a full, independent, comprehensive review ought to be taken of the project. That's something that never occurred at the start and hasn't occurred for the last 6 years. It's more than 6 years since the announcement in 2017. And it's been proven that all of the estimates for costs and time schedules and the benefits of the scheme have been incorrect. So it's time to review it. The government's in a very difficult position. We estimate maybe 3 or 4 billion has already been invested in the project.
But better not to chase that, surely, and take it up to 20 billion. Do you think 20 billion is a realistic total now?
Well, we've been saying for some time now that we believe the plant itself is 10 billion plus. Snowy Hydro have said 6, but that 6 doesn't include all of the costs. So we think the plant itself is going to cost 10 billion. That's if it can be completed. We might get to Florence in a minute. And then the transmission lines, there's 1,000 kilometres of transmission lines to connect to Sydney and Melbourne, and that's another 10 billion. So all up, $10 billion.
So how does this give us cheap power? That's not going to be cheap power.
No, right from the start, the claims were that Snowy would put downward pressure on prices. But Snowy Hydro's own reports showed that, in fact, Snowy 2 would increase prices. You know, we have graphs that we can show you that show their own analysis shows that Snowy 2 will increase prices compared to the base case with no Snowy 2.
You mentioned Florence, that's the tunnelling machine. It's stuck, it's not moving, but if even though they get that moving again, it's going to take forever to drill the kilometres of tunnelling that it needs to, right?
Yeah, well, there's 3 tunnel boring machines, all named after prominent women, and all of them have not been excavating anywhere near their specifications. But Florence is the standout laggard. She was commissioned in March of last year, and in 14 months she's travelled 150 metres. Now, this is a 15-kilometre long head race tunnel. By now, if she had been travelling at her 30 to 50 metre a day specification, she would be about 11 to 12 kilometres into that tunnel. Even if she started miraculously to excavate today and she tunnelled at the speed of the other 2 tunnel boring machines, it would be 8 years.
8 years. You talk about the economics. Obviously, it's not cost effective, but it would store renewable energy. But the point is, it doesn't give us any additional generation. How much generation could we build in other forms with $20 billion?
Yeah, well, I mean, we need to transition away from fossil fuels, and we need to do that as quickly as we possibly can.
But Chris Bowen's scoffing at the cost of nuclear, for instance. But $20 billion would build you some sort of nuclear capacity, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, we need storage, and as you said, Snowy 2 is purely a battery. It's not a net producer of electricity, it's a net load on the system. But there are far better alternative storages than Snowy 2. It's the worst possible project in the worst possible location. It's in the middle of a national park. It's hundreds and hundreds of kilometres away from the load centres. It's hundreds of kilometres away from the generators that will power the pumps. Those transmission lines have to be built for Snowy 2 to operate. And
there's an environmental cost and all that, so much land being cleared for all the transmission and the like. Just briefly, in summary then, do you think, when you talk about your rational arguments against this project, are you convinced that it will fall over, that a government in the end will have to stop it rather than just keep bankrolling it?
Well, frankly, I was amazed that the new government didn't come in and undertake the independent, comprehensive review that we've been saying has been necessary right from the start. I mean, that was their opportunity to stand back, have a clear look at this project. It was going to cost $2 billion, now it's 20. It was going to be completed in 4 years, that's 2021. It's now 2029. This year alone, the estimated completion date has gone back 3 years.
It's just amazing.
It was 2026, it's now 2029.
We will be still talking about this in 2029, I fear. Thanks for joining us, Ted. I appreciate it.